process. All right. So yeah, as you can see, my name is Dmitry, last name Kolchakowski, and for the last 8 years, I've been working as a QA analyst, QA engineer, and currently I am holding position of QA manager at a company called Velocity Global. And throughout my career, I had an amazing opportunity to go through basically career ladders, from a manual tester to a QA engineer, and now I'm managing several teams that are working with manual testing and automated testing. So that's a little bit myself. I didn't make a slide about myself, but I made a little presentation about our topic. So let's talk about this. So we're going to talk about automated testing with sort of like a newish framework called Cypress. So let's talk about automated testing. So I remember myself, starting career of QA analyst, and I remember my first job was basically we were working in consulting company, and we were just testing multiple projects, and all of the testing was manual. And I remember how we basically moving back and forth this tickets or cards, whatever you call them, from testing back to development, etc. And then we kind of always trying to ask a question of our managers, like, why don't we do automated testing? And we never got an answer like, well, we have to put so much resources in case to get started with it, and this is true. But let's say you are working in a great company and you have a nice project that you like, but all you have is just manual testing. You have probably established framework of like, not framework, but kind of suite of manual test cases, and that's great too. But let's kind of think of like, why do we need automated testing at all? And the first thing that comes into mind that for handling repetitive tasks, because anytime we have to test something, for example, we have some system that works some payments or whatever, we have to always kind of log into the system. We have to always log into the system with different users probably, and this is something that in case to test main functionality we have to log in, and this could be very repetitive. You could do 100 times a day, and it could be annoying. And for example, if something will go wrong on the login page, at some point you will lose focus. So the next point, we need automated testing for eliminating human error. Human tend to make mistakes, obviously, because we all have feelings, we all have emotions. Sometimes you're getting tired, sometimes exhausted, and it's kind of a bit unprofessional to admit it that, well, I don't feel really good, and yes, I made a mistake. So that's another reason why we need automated testing. Another reason why we need it to reduce time, effort, and cost. And we can talk more about this because if you will say like, well, but how are we gonna reduce effort? Because automated testing is actually kind of takes an effort, because we have to find right professional with the right skill. Then we have to give this professional time and money, and we will have to put a lot of resources basically to bring up this testing framework and then teach our people. And that is true, but in current QA field, there are several QA automated test frameworks which can be set up in a quite short time. And once we'll do this initial effort, let's say first a couple of weeks, then we'll be able to save a lot of time throughout our release process or development process. I used to work in one company where we were spending 4 hours for the smoke test, and we were releasing 2, sometimes 3 times a week. So we were spending about 8 to 12 hours on smoke tests, executing it manually. And when I got on board, I told them, well, that's not ideal, so let's work on some automation. So once we automated all the smoke tests, we were able to eliminate this kind of man hours, human hours, basically all those 4 hours of smoke tests could take us only 50 minutes of automated testing. So we could just press the button, this task could just, execute, and then responsible person could just, go into the system and check results and then report back. So we definitely want to reduce human time, and we definitely want to reduce human effort. And instead of getting on the board, 10 manual testers, we could probably get, about 4 or 5 automated testers, or testers who already know how to do automation, or teach existing personnel. And consistency. So this also kind of complies to handling eliminating human error, because while humans, have kind of feelings, emotions, we're getting tired, automated framework does not have any of this. Basically, task framework is pretty, I wouldn't say stupid, but it will do exactly what's been told to do. So if you tell your task is, hey, go to this link, click on this button, it's going to do exactly this. It's not gonna, think about this. It's not gonna, kind of forget to click. It's not gonna click on something else. It'll do exactly what it's been told to do. So let's talk. So let's say we decided to do automated testing, but let's talk more like how do we get started? Like what's going to be our strategy, and what are the kind of standards, for creating automated tests. So first, we really want to focus on what to automate, and this is something I already talked about a little bit. So in one company, I remember we decided to automate only smoke test, which would basically just check our environments before each deployment. In some companies, I remember we were automating regression scripts, which would kind of hit all spots of our app in test environment before we deploy to production. So other company prefer to basically to cover everything with UI automated tests, like each and every button, each and every label. So it's very individual case, for every company. But if we will take a look on test pyramid, kind of test pyramid refers that we should have kind of limited amount of UI automated tests, because they're kind of slow to write, and or I would say like expensive to write and slow to execute, because it takes a little bit more time to write UI automated tests, and also it takes a little bit more time to execute them, unfortunately. But there are a lot of workarounds to avoid that again. So then the second point would be selecting the testing tool. So currently there are a bunch of tools available on the marketplace, and now that I'm holding a position of QA manager, I'm getting a lot of sales emails on my mailbox, like saying that, hey, we are the company, whatever, and then we provide a codeless framework for which we will charge you a little bit of money, of course. So there are codeless frameworks. There are industry standard in automated testing considered to be like Selenium WebDriver. I even remember using Selenium IDE, which was kind of, again, click and record tool. So basically record and play back. So first you click record, you do some clicks, then you click stop, and then basically this framework will do some clicks for you. But I'm not a big fan of codeless frameworks and this playback and records tool, because these tests are extremely fragile. So if there will be like kind of minor adjustment in your UI or anything, you'll have to spend a lot of time, again, rewriting those tests and maintaining it. But that's not the point. So we have to select testing tool. Then the next point, we need to design our tests, and we need to also execute them. So basically, to elaborate more, that means we have to kind of build reliable test framework, which will be understandable and comprehensive to even like new team members. So because we definitely, you know, don't want to write a beast, which you'll be only basically the one person who will be understanding, you know, this thing. You know, you want your code to be clean. You want your tests, you know, to be readable. And also execution. So we need to decide how often and when and how, you know, we would like to execute our tests, if let's say we already have them. And of course maintenance. So let's say we already have we selected what to automate, we selected tool, we started writing tests. Now that we have our test framework, you know, we can just enjoy our lives and maintain our scripts. So let's talk more about tools. And in regards to tools, as I mentioned, that if you'll ask anyone in the QA field, like, hey, you know, what do you know about test automation? Someone for sure will tell you, oh, I know Selenium, right? And that is true. Selenium is like kind of the biggest, kind of more like widespread automated testing tool in the world. It has basically well-established community, you know, multiple, you know, publics, a lot of information on the free resources like YouTube and stuff. So let's talk more about Selenium and Cypress. And I'll tell you why I decided to do a Cypress webinar today a little bit later. So let's talk about languages that these two frameworks support. So Cypress supports JavaScript only, which for someone will be like, well, but my company project is written on Java, you know, or C#. You know, how do I do this? You know, am I still going to be able to use Cypress? The answer is yes, but you would have to practice your coding skills, you know, on JavaScript language only. While Selenium WebDriver libraries, they're being supported by like most, you know, popular language, basically like all languages like Java, Python, Ruby, C#, etc. What else the Cypress doing? Cypress at this point supports only Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Electron browser, while Selenium has a little bit more browsers to support, like Safari and then Opera. I'm pretty sure there are some more. But Cypress has really simple setup, on which we will talk a little bit later. While Selenium has kind of a little bit challenging setup, because it requires a lot of dependencies and a lot of items kind of to play on the same level. For example, I remember having, you know, quite a few times a problem where we were installing, basically we were building a Selenium WebDriver framework, and then we installed all the packages like basically in C# it would be like NUnit libraries, then Selenium WebDriver libraries, Selenium support, then browser supports, and sometimes, you know, something is getting outdated or being updated, and then this library is telling me that, well, I cannot work, you know, you cannot execute this task because this libraries are not matching. So this is like one of the biggest challenges in Selenium, just to make sure that everything in place and everything is playing kind of simultaneously as an orchestra, while Cypress simply just doesn't have it. What else? Selenium does have a lot of documentation, but by a lot I mean like a ton. You know, I remember when I was learning automated testing myself, you know, it was really easy to just get lost. You know, you could go to you know, Google and type how to set up Selenium, and then you'll find multiple resources. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, and you just if you don't know what you are doing, for example, if you are the one basically person who's responsible for automated testing, it's really easy to get confused and get lost and get frustrated, and that's why Cypress also kind of positioned himself like, test your code, not your patience. Because Cypress has official website, and it provides really intuitive documentation. Plus, it was actually originally designed to introduce developers and QAs to test automation. So obviously developers first, because as you probably know, that a lot of software developers, they just you know, neglecting testing. They were like, well, you know, it works for me, then you go ahead and test it, but I remember I've seen a lot of situation where you try to test some front end ticket, and then you want to cover it with test, but doesn't have enough kind of properties in this web elements where you can that you can use for your automated tasks. So unfortunately, not a lot of tests, not a lot of developers are test oriented, and Cypress could help both. I would say it could be definitely a tool which could unite developers and QA engineers. While Selenium is a more general purpose tool. So I would say if you are in a situation where you have unlimited resources and you have help of super cool experienced QA people plus developers, plus you need to test kind of all browsers in the world, then yeah, probably Selenium would be kind of better tool to use. But Cypress at this time is more user friendly. It's much easier to set up. It has really intuitive documentation, and it just it has been created, to help people get into automated testing. And that's something we'll talk about just a little bit later. Yeah, last thing that Cypress has Test Runner, which I think is a huge benefit because basically when you want to execute tasks, it's not just executing something, for you and kind of just clicking mindlessly, without even telling you what it's doing, like kind of Selenium, for example. Cypress supports really great UI, plus it has an interesting feature called time travel, on which we'll talk a little bit later again, but it'll provide you like really great understanding, and it will give you breakdowns of your tasks and how your functionality actually works. So that's the end of my slide, and let's actually do some demo. So I believe that you guys been told to pre-install Visual Studio Code and Node.js. So I provided links where you can do it. So basically, you can just go to Google and do like Node.js install, and the first link, download Node.js, and you can definitely do this for your system. It doesn't really matter, Windows or Mac, it'll work. And the same thing with Visual Studio Code. By the way, do not confuse it with Visual Studio, because Visual Studio is a different tool. So a lot of people refer to it like VS Code. So again, install this, just go to official link. You can do the same thing, like VS Code, download or install, and then you'll see the first link and download it to your system. So once you unpacked Node.js, and once you already installed Visual Studio Code, you might ask, okay, I have it, what's next? The next thing I would do is just, go do right click, do like create basically new window, and then Visual Studio Code will open for you. And then you'll be like, well, but it's totally empty, I never done this before, it just looks scary, because it's blank. But we can go to Explorer and we can click Open Folder. So what I would like to do, I like to just have dedicated like project folder. So go to your PC, select your disk, select user, and I'll use this user, and I would just do the right click and create a brand new folder, and I would call it code. And I'll select it. But then you might have a question like, well, but your folder is empty, how are you gonna do the testing? I never really done coding in my life. And that's okay. So in Visual Studio Code, we can go to Terminal and then click New Terminal. And that's where we can check if our Node.js got installed properly. So we can do npx and then -v, and we can hit enter, and then we should have the version number. So this will work. But if you're talking about Cypress, first it has to be installed. So how to install Cypress? Cypress has an official website on which we can go, cypress.io, and basically the first thing it shows in here, like npm install Cypress. So we can just again, copy this command, come back to your Visual Studio Code, to the terminal, do Control V and hit enter. I already installed because it takes probably about like kind of 2 minutes, so I didn't want to waste a lot of your valuable time. But once you'll install everything, then you can execute the next command to check if it's installed properly or not. Do something like npx, actually, let's see. Yeah, npx Cypress and then -- version. And I'm pretty sure if I'll just do -v, it's going to do the same thing. Yeah. So as you can see, I already have Cypress version 10.3. Do you guys want me to stop a little bit, or should I just continue? Okay. Thank you. Continue. Cool. So let's say, okay, so we have Node.js installed. We are currently in our Visual Studio Code, but our folder is still empty, but likely we have everything installed. So what to do? Let's open Cypress. So let's execute next command. Let's do npx and then Cypress open. So you might ask, like, hey, why do we do this npx thing all the time? So think of this like we are telling Node.js that, hey, Node.js, I want you, I want Cypress to be open. So basically, if we will kind of build our mindset this way, it'll be a little bit easier to understand. And I really want you to understand exactly what we are doing. So yeah, let's hit enter. Okay. I got an error. Cool. Yep, npx. Thank you. Okay, and I got this window open in basically this test runner. So Cypress version 10 provides quite interesting functionality. So it will give us ability to do basically end-to-end testing, which also sometimes being referred to E2E, and component testing. We are not going to touch component testing because I would probably say that it'll be kind of more suitable, for developers to set up. But I really want us today to be focused on E2E testing. So let's just click on it. We clicked on it, and then now we're having some files to populate. And also, basically, Cypress letting us know that, hey, we're gonna install you some files. You're gonna get cypress.config.js file, and then you also have Cypress support E2E JS file, then command, etc. So the really cool thing about it is that once you just execute simple command, it already pre-installs you a lot of good stuff that you don't really need to kind of bang your head to the wall or Google, how to get started, how to do this versus Selenium. So let's click continue because that's all we need. And now it gives me a choice to select any browser I like. So I'll go with Chrome. And now I got this Chrome window open, as you can see in here. And it actually kind of gave me a choice, like, hey, we can give you some examples. So you can basically, take a look yourself, see how it works, and maybe, use this example sort of like a template for your next test. Or you can just, just create a brand new file. It's going to be empty, and you're on your own. And since we're just starting, so let's select this option, Scaffold example specs. And it's basically telling me that, hey, in this folder, Cypress E2E, I'm gonna give you the following files. So we're gonna have basically this folder, getting started, then to do.site.js, and a bunch of other ones. And I'll be like, well, okay. And yeah, as you can see, I already have files, and I already have some tasks to select in our test executor. So let's just click on the first one, getting started to do. So I clicked, and that's how the magic happens. So our tasks, they basically started to run. And here you go. We have 6 tests in this folder, and looks like all of them passed. And you'll be like, well, but it's only like 7 seconds. Like, is it a joke? Like, well, yes and no. Like, yes, because a lot of applications, a lot of people, when they try to sell you something, they create like a special app that's kind of dedicated for the Cypress testing, and they just kind of flashing to you like, hey, look how quick it is. But honestly, it is quick. But we're gonna do a lot of applications, a lot of people, when they try to sell you something, they create. I apologize, Mikola, but I can hear myself. Could you mute yourself? The Cypress testing, and thank you. Okay. So let's take a look on this example. So as you can see, we can see kind of breakdowns of our test. So we have this first test. It says basically display to do items by default. And the first step, we are visiting certain link, and then the test body. We are getting this web element. Then we expecting this element to be at least 1, or actually to have lengths of 2. Then it actually asks us, oh, get me this web element, class, to-do list, and then the li. And then take the first one, and then make sure this web element li have text, pay electric bill. Then get second, actually last item, and then expect li to have text, walk the dog. So it looks pretty cool, right? It looks pretty simple, and you can read it just like real language. But how does it look like in code? So let's come back to it. So let's find our test. In here it says basically, yeah, Cypress, then et, then 1 getting started, to do sci. So let's just follow this structure, getting started, and then to do. And as you can see, we have basically a bunch of code, but let's kind of break it down. So Cypress is being real nice to us. They provide, like welcome message, and they provide some explanation that, hey, this file contains a variety of sample tests, which is amazing. Then the actual tests, they are sitting in describe function. In JavaScript, describe function serves the role of basically a class. I would say it's like a placeholder, which will contain all your automated tests. Also, interesting thing, and this is something that we'll be using a lot before each function. So before each function plays role of executing something that's inside before each and every test. And in this case, they decided to put sci visit into before each. So basically, we could definitely do something like this. Basically, have the sci visit in each and every test. But as you can see, if you would have like 1,000 tests, we could have like kind of extra 1,000 lines of code. And this is probably not going to make any difference, but we really like to be kind of nice and clean, and we don't like to have the same thing like over and over again, just like these 2 lines are repeating each other. So we will keep this site visit in before each. And then we have our first test. So Cypress understands that you wrote a test when it has it like in front of it, and the structure is really simple. It's just like kind of standard JavaScript function. So basically, here we have this it, then we have a name, then we can add some arguments, and then we have a test body. And again, they provide a little explanation that, hey, we use get command to get all elements that match the selector. Then we use should to assert that there are 2 matched items, which are the 2 default items. And yeah, that's exactly what they do. They're telling Cypress, get me this web element that matches basically this CSS selector, and then it should have length of 2. again, in my opinion, this is really beautiful. You can read it like kind of plain English, and I think that's what every test automated framework should do. Should bring us. But then you're gonna ask, like, well, yeah, this is nice. We have this, kind of default test, but how do we use it, in our practice? And yeah, let's talk about it some more. So let's get rid of these tutorials, because if you're gonna be using this knowledge in your own project, at your job, or just for fun, maybe you like to work 24/7. Let's get rid of all these comments. So. And let's just again, compare these tests basically just one by one. So yeah, as you can see, the first one is telling me like, hey, Cypress, get this web element, then should have lengths 2, and then it says, assert expected to have lengths of 2. Then the next line, again, get me the same selector, and then first item should have text, pay electric bill. And then the third line, get the same web element, then select last item. As you can see in here, it highlights, and then assert that this item have text, walk the dog. So this is great. But let's close it for now. Let's do some refactoring. So let's try to use some real life example. And I don't really have like a kind of app under a test, that I could really use, but let's just use Google, why not? So basically what we can do, we can just, copy this link, go back to our Visual Studio Code, and then in before each we have this Cypress visit, and then we can just, replace our link with real life link. And let's say it's going to be your kind of test link of your test environment at your company. And the moment I will hit Control Save, it will start basically executing tests again. So it will accept all my changes, it will rebuild automatically, and then you'll start hitting new URL. I think it's awesome again because, for example, if someone already used Selenium WebDriver in Selenium, you could basically make some changes, but you would have to build, then you would have to make sure it compiles, you don't have any compilation errors, and then once it succeeds, you would have to click again, like run my test. So let's see, we have some failure. But let's take a look at this one. So before each says, oh, I'm visiting google.com. Then the body says, well, I was trying to find this to-do list li, but I got 0, so it just not there. What can I do? And this is expected. That's exactly what we want to see. So let's get rid of all our tasks because we don't really need them. And let's try to create something that's going to be suitable for our case. So let's say we want to load our page and then confirm the main logo is being displayed. So as you see what I just did, I just clicked on this pointer. Basically, it's kind of same thing like in the Chrome browser web development tools inspector, but you can click on this pointer and you can inspect all the elements. And once, for example, I found the element that I like, I can click on it, and as you can see, it basically automatically shows me here, what would my code look like. So I can just copy to clipboard. I can come back to my test, and I can replace it. But I don't want just to find element. I want to do something with this element, right? So let's hit dot and then use exactly what Cypress was telling us. Should then open parentheses because it's a function, and then we can select what exactly we want to confirm. So we can do like should be a string, but we just want to confirm that it is visible. So let's open quotation marks and let's scroll through the options. So let's say we want to make sure it is just being displayed or visible. Should, so let's type B, and then there are so many options. Should not be, I think, yeah, right here. And if I'll hit enter, it'll work, and I can probably delete, kind of code that I'm not gonna use. And also I can modify the name of the test because I can say something like, well, this test, then should confirm logo, right? And since we are building our tests for basically the Google search engine, we can also modify the name of our describe file, because what this description is doing is basically telling us we're going to be writing tests for something. So we'll do like Google search test. We can also modify this file, rename it to just let's say first test, and then let's save it. And then, hey, spec not found. That's okay. If we do massive changes like this, let's say we are modifying some folder structure or test structure, it'll be kind of getting confused, so it'll kick us out. But we can just click back. As you can see, our name of the test got updated, and we can just click on it, and it will start executing again. Now let's take a look at our test. So as you can see, it took only like 5 seconds to run it. And let's take a look. Before each, we visited Google, and then in test body, we found this logo, and we made sure it is visible. So this is awesome, right? But let's say you're gonna be like, well, I can confirm logo, pretty easy visually. It doesn't make sense to automate such a thing. Let's do something kind of more interesting. And yeah, let's do it. So we want to build a second test, and since I'm a bit lazy today, I don't want to create everything from the scratch again. Let's just copy this thing and paste it. Let's change the name. Let's say it should search, and then let's find the search bar. So let's click on this target, and then let's start inspecting our elements. So here's the search bar. Let's copy it. And let's go back, and let's replace this thing. And then we found the search bar, but we want to type some text in it, right? So we want to basically do exactly what we just said, type. And since it's a function, we have to open parentheses, and it already shows us that, hey, this function accepts arguments. So we can basically type some string inside. Or even here you see type hello and press enter. And that's exactly what we're gonna do. Because if you'll observe, if you'll go here, if you'll type something like kind of monitor, if you'll hit this button, nothing happens. We must have some basically kind of action to it. So we must have click enter or something. So that's exactly what we're gonna do in our test. So let's come back to our code. Let's do, type monitor. And now you want to press enter, we have to open this curly brackets, and then we have to type the name of our key. So monitor and then enter. But this is just not enough, because tests have to do something. So I always like to use a method when I build automated tests, called arrange, act, and assert. So basically, what this means, set up the environment, like kind of arrange the test situation, like visit this link and give me this page. Then act, do something. Like if you want to search for the monitor, then we can just, type this value inside, and then hit enter, and then assert. So assert, we must confirm that the action that we've done previously actually gave us some result. So let's do exactly this. So here we are arranging, here we are acting, because we're telling, hey, Cypress, get me this search field, and then type word monitor in it, and then hit enter key. And then let's assert that we got something back. We have some result. So let's come back to it, and let's see. Maybe we can inspect what's happening. And here we have kind of two ways for element expectation, like for element inspection. I'm sorry. We can definitely go to our browser. We can do the right click, click inspect, or just press F12 on our keyboard, and then we can use this pointer, and then we can basically inspect our elements. And let's say we want to find a selector for this guy, basically for this label that says shop monitor, and also it has the selector, role heading. We could definitely do something like this. And we could do this by using this interesting method on a console. So as you saw, I just opened this console drawer, and here I can basically clear everything. And let's say I want to find this selector. I mean, I already found it, but I want to check if it's going to work for me or not. So we can use this method of checking elements by typing $$, then open parentheses. Then inside we can open double quotation marks, and then we have this basically HTML attribute role. So let's do role, but since it's role equals, we have to put it in square brackets. And then let's do equal sign, and then we need to use single quotation marks, because singles and doubles, they do not like to be kind of like double quotation marks. They cannot be inside of double quotation marks. And then heading. As you can see, we have like 70 results. So this might be not the best thing, but here we have H3. So let's add, so since this H3 is HTML tag, and role heading is inside of this HTML tag, we can just add this H3 inside. And as you can see, we have some element. But then we want to be probably kind of more proactive. So let's do like span, right? Or we can use this class. And then that, and then the class that I just selected. So as you can see, I found this element, and it's unique. It's only one existing on this page. And I'm hovering over it, and it's being displayed in here. Are you guys still hear me and still see my monitor? Okay, cool. Because it's been so quiet, and my internet sometimes going on and off. Sorry. So we can build, something like this. We can think of, okay, how can I create a cool assertion? So maybe we can do something like checking, this element that it basically does not exist on this main page. Then, type monitor, and then basically checking that now the selector exists, right? So now we have pretty cool test case. Now we have to repeat the same actions in our test framework. So let's just do it. Also, let's say you don't like to use this method, or maybe you didn't find anything unique. We can do a slightly different way. So we can kind of restart our test. We can wait until this page loads, and we can stop it. And then we can basically kind of use this test runner as our sort of like a battlefield. And we can then click on this pointer and inspect these elements. And I can just find this one and then copy it and use it in my test. So basically, this CSS class and then pointing to the span is pretty much the same thing as we did in here. We just here we are just being kind of more detailed, and that's why I really like to use these both methods. In web tools, in developer in Chrome DevTools by yourself, and in Cypress, because basically this method just provides you kind of more freedom, I would say. While sometimes if you work in Cypress and you want to confirm something, it just kind of give you like you see like basically this thing. It just doesn't look really good. But for now, we can even stick with this guy. So let's copy it and let's go back to our test. So it should search. So we're visiting, and then let's confirm that basically this element is not visible. So should, and then open quotation marks, and then not be visible. And then we type word monitor in the search bar. And then we want to confirm that it is visible. So let's delete this. And also, what else we can do? We can do something like have text, and then comma, or text, and or actually not how. I don't want to be like super specific. I just wanted to should contain. Yeah, let's do contain text. So if you're gonna tell Cypress that, hey, find this element and make sure this should have text, it'll consider as kind of equal sign. So basically, it'll understand like, oh, so are you saying that the value that you're asking for should match, the same value that this element owns? But I don't want to be specific. I just want to make sure that basically this new page, that selector just contains the text that we were searching for originally. Okay, so let's save it and let's see what happens. So I just saved, and now we have two tests. So should confirm logo and then should search. Okay, should not be visible. Okay, we have failure, and this is actually good. This is actually expected because I told Cypress, hey, find this element and make sure it's not visible. So there is a difference between being visible and kind of existing. So basically, I just told Cypress that, hey, this element probably exists, or actually this element should exist, but should not be visible. So let's try to fix this. And also, let's say we are at our workplace and we have to work on kind of one particular test case that's failing and we want to fix it. So if you don't want to run your tasks over and over again, we can use this little trick. We can just put kind of this little property as only in here before this test. And now this test will be executed only by itself. So if I'll hit save, if I'll come back, as you can see, only one test is being executed. So if you'll decide to isolate, a group of tests, within your file, just add this property only to it. Or let's say, I don't want this to be isolated. I want this to be skipped. I can just, add, hey, I want to skip this one, and I'll hit save. As you can see, it still shows us two tests, but only one got executed. So let's finally fix this test. It should search. So we're telling, hey, find this element that only visible on the next page and make sure it's not visible. So let's fix this and let's make sure we do something like should not exist. Okay, we have a pass. So let's break this test down and let's see exactly what happened here. So in before each, we arranged our environment. We visited our desired link under a test. Then in test body, we're telling, hey, Cypress, get me this web element and make sure it does not exist. And that's what it said. Expect this not to exist in the DOM. Then get the search field, then type monitor, and then hit enter. And then after we hit enter, page started to load. And then the next step is basically finding our desired web element. And we're expecting that this element visible, and also this element contains text monitor. And let's say for some reason we cannot find the right selector for the test, but we found one through basically DevTools through our browser, which we can just come back to it, and we can replace this one with the right one. They're going to do exactly the same job. I just want to show you different options. As you can see, Cypress and kind of JavaScript in general doesn't really care if you use single quotation marks or double quotation marks. It doesn't really care if you have basically semicolon in out of the code line. So that's the beauty of it, because it's super user friendly. So let's just run this test again. Or actually, let's delete the skip and let's run all of this. So I resaved it, and first test passed, and the second test is also gonna pass, I promise. Yay. Okay. So now we built, a couple tests, and you'll be like, well, yeah, this is pretty cool, but I don't like, this link, to be here all the time, and that's fine. I don't like it too. So we can do, as you can see, Cypress gave us this file called cypress.config. So this is the file where all our config files could sit, and when I say config files, it could be also our base URL or our URL under test. So let's just do something like this. Base URL, then column, and then we can basically type our URL. So let's just cut it from here and paste it in here. Let's save it. Let's save. As you can see, Cypress automatically reloaded, because like, whoa, that's kind of big change. I would like to start over. And that's fine. We can, completely close it. As you can see in Visual Studio Code, if you have some unsaved changes, you will have this kind of white dot, and also we'll identify this to you through Explorer that, hey, you have one unsaved change. So let's make sure everything is saved. And now our test looks a little bit more clean. And now we have just Cypress visit and then empty string in here, because we already telling Cypress that, hey, we have like a base URL, which we don't want to repeat, in each test file. We just want to have kind of in each test file just extensions of that URL. So let's say if you want to test this particular page, in a different file, we can definitely do this. But I would say, let's just create a new file, and then extend it URL, and then .sci. So Cypress will understand that this file contains test files and JS extension, just to identify that we use JavaScript. It is empty, but no worries. We already have like a base that we can use. So I'll just copy and paste this thing and Google search with extended URL. And then we can probably get rid of this, get rid of this one, rename this test, So as you can see, like in under an hour, we just became automated test engineers, and we learned how to basically set up our test from the scratch and start running, and basically writing and running simple tests. So just to wrap this up, let's just kind of build one test for this particular page. So our base URL is google.com. So in case to use extended URL, we just need to add anything, or actually, yeah. It's quite big string, but I wonder if I can do something like, let's just do this. It's doing something, and then since we don't have any web elements yet, let's just tell, hey, Cypress, just wait for 5 seconds. And let's start our runner again by executing npx cypress open. Yep, and now since we configured our ET tasks, we have some, and we still want to use Chrome. So as you can see, now it actually shows that, hey, you have two files. So let's launch the second one. So here's what happened. You see, now in before each, we had basically visit and then just /search. So what's happening is Cypress is taking our base URL and then it adds to this base URL, wherever we are adding in this sci.visit function. So now that we have this opening, we can just inspect something, and let's say you want to confirm that basically this element. So we don't want to wait anymore, and this element should contain what? Text, comma. What does it say? Gaming. So let's do some gaming. Okay, and once I'll hit save, it will rerun. And bam. I'm showing this here with the purpose that, let's say you want to build kind of a lot of tests, for different pages like shopping, images, news. So instead of just, going into main page and then clicking, on basically those labels, you can just load basically this task condition, right away without wasting time on something that you already did in the previous test. So I guess, yeah, that's going to be a wrap. So thanks everyone for attention, and let's ask some questions. Do you have any, of course?
Do you have like any specific recommendations if you have a vast, big product, like maybe there are some things that could help speed up the automation?
Speed up the automation.
Maybe Cypress has some like specific tricks to it.
The thing is, Cypress doesn't really have anything like specific, because as you can see, if we will take a look at our tasks again, we don't really use anything like kind of, find this element, then wait for a second, then click on this and then wait, and then do this and then wait. So Cypress has kind of implicit wait by default. So what that means, if I will tell Cypress that, hey, I want to type this value in the search field, and then I hit enter, you have to.
Sorry for interrupting. I meant speed up the coverage of the product, not like the test execution.
Speed up the coverage of what?
Of the automation scope. Like, if maybe there are some tricks to write Cypress tests even faster than you showed. Like,
Unfortunately, no, because it's not, it's not, generating anything for you, unfortunately. But so basically, it just kind of gives you an opportunity to build, simple tasks just by yourself. So yeah, that's kind of the best you can do. So unfortunately, there's no such way to kind of like generate, a bunch of tasks.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, I guess you're referring to something like kind of like unit test frameworks, where sometimes.
No, I was actually asking more like about the recorder option in test tools, in DevTools in Chrome, and exporting recordings from there. Maybe there are some like neat tricks,
Yeah, unfortunately, not at the moment, and I think it might be beneficial for somebody, but at this point, it just I wouldn't say it's a kind of replacement of the classic automated testing tools like Selenium, but it just provides kind of beginners or people who like to switch to something else, just kind of opportunity to get started like really easy. So get started and write tasks, and you can just go here, basically inspect elements, then copy them. But yeah, unfortunately, there is no such way that you can just kind of record your actions and it'll compile tasks for you.
Got it. Thanks. Yeah. There are some questions in the chat from what I see.
Yeah, are there any good tutorials on YouTube about Cypress that you can recommend? Actually, there is one. I will send it later to the organizers of this meeting. I need some water. So I found actually a really cool course, slightly kind of more advanced than I just showed you, because that course explains kind of how to implement page object model in Cypress framework. So what page object model is doing is basically it gives us opportunity to group code into files and then use this code from those files in multiple test files. But this session is kind of like an entry level for automated testing, and particularly on Cypress. So yeah, but I'll definitely gonna send a link. Okay, how to prevent instability of Cypress tests when 2 times a row it can have different results, pass and fail. So I think we are talking about kind of like a flaky test, where same test sometimes passing, sometimes failing. Is that correct, Katerina? Okay, so we are talking about flaky tests, and basically the long story short, we should not have any test like this. If you see a test that sometimes fails, sometimes pass, I would say delete it, or try to like break it down into like smaller pieces, because if something is showing up to you and then the second run it basically doesn't show up, that's not the best test practice. We want our tests to be stable and robust. So I always use the approach that one problem, one test. If you want to for example go here on this page and confirm this label, it might sound weird, but we should have one task that should go here and confirm label. Because if you will just grab all labels from this page and we will compile them into like one huge task, what if our task will fail somewhere like in the middle or at the beginning? We're not going to have a chance to review results for the rest of the elements, because how do you know what happened after the failure? Because unfortunately, if our test fails somewhere in the middle, it just stops. So I would say just let's try to be kind of more specific with what we want from our test, because as I mentioned at the beginning, the test framework is pretty stupid, honestly. It's going to do exactly what's been asked to do. So there is no magic. Okay, we have a question. Can we use Cypress test with CI/CD application, for example, Jenkins? Excellent question. And the answer is yes, we can. So if we'll go to official Cypress website, if we'll go to docs, which stands for documentation, then yeah, we can definitely find basically continuous integration articles. And I thought I clicked on it. Yeah. It definitely supports GitLab. I used to work. I'm currently working with the Cypress pipeline in GitLab, and I used to work in the past with Azure DevOps. And there is, Cypress itself, provides pretty good information. But if you'll run into some problem, you'll be able to find some answer in Stack Overflow or just kind of Googling around. But yeah, they already provide some information, so there is a possibility. Okay, how use one test in different browser? Sounds good, thanks. Okay, I'll try to answer to a different browser. So if we want to run our tests in specific browsers, we can definitely do this. And let's close, what we have right now. And okay. So let's say you're building a pipeline, CI/CD pipeline, and you want to have basically the same task that kind of runs in Chrome and then in Firefox. So we can do this by just kind of specifying the command. So we can do something like Cypress npx Cypress run, I believe, and then dash browser. Let me actually refer to their documentation. Okay, cross-browser testing or launching different browsers. Yeah, so for example, if you want to run in Firefox or Chrome, we can just, definitely do something like this. Run browser, like Firefox, or let's say Chrome. Okay, we have next question. What do I do with the testing in Safari as long as Cypress doesn't support it? Are there any hacks, or do you use different tool to run tests in Safari? Yeah, that's a good question. So at this point, Cypress does not officially support Cypress, but they have pretty active GitHub repository, and sometimes they just accepting these questions and answers in the GitHub. So I believe they're currently working on it. So basically, they don't have it at the moment, but there is a plan. But at this point, the simple answer is that it's one of the downsides of the Cypress, that you can't really run tests in Safari. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? Thank you guys for listening. If we don't have any questions, I guess, this recording will be on the YouTube channel of KA Group. And then I'm definitely going to share some links for further, learning. And I guess I'll see you next time.
Stay safe and thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.